I first became aware of this project about 5 years ago. A friend of mine was telling me about these magical meetings he was having with Warren Beatty at his house and spending time with his family. And he just told me all these amazing stories. And I just sat there in awe, thinking, oh my God, that's the dream. That's crazy. That's something I would never get to do, but wow, good for you. And then cut to 5 years later, I got a phone call while I was prepping for a premiere of a film that I was about to premiere, and they said Warren Beatty wants to talk to you about his film, and I just never would have thought that 5 years later it would have come full circle. I was really familiar with Warren's work before the movie. My dad's favorite film, or one of them, is Heaven Can Wait. So I've been hearing about Mr. Beatty ever since I was little. And after I was cast, my mom and I rewatched all of them just to update me yet again. And I loved seeing them a second time, a third time, a fourth. They never get old. I can't count on my hands the amount of stories that Warren told us. And I, every single day, hearing them, soaked them in and thought, you know what, I'm going to want to remember these when I'm older. So I think I'm going to write that one down. So I actually kept a journal while we were filming of all these amazing tidbits of information that he had told us, wisdom that he imparted on us, stories, as well as maybe creative critiques that he gave me throughout the shoot that I wanted to remember, because it would be it would not, I mean, I would be doing myself a disservice not to remember those, because he's really like a mentor as well. Marla Mabrey is a young, very religious girl who comes from Virginia, who is contracted under the eccentric billionaire Howard Hughes to become a Hollywood star. And she comes under the assumption that there is a specific set of rules that young women must abide by within the entertainment industry to be successful. And it's throughout her journey in Los Angeles, throughout the important lessons she learns and her relationship with Frank, who is also a contracted driver under the Hughes Corporation, how she, throughout her experiences, really realizes that the rules don't apply to everyone, and it's about their interactions with the craziness of Mr. Hughes. I think it's interesting because at the beginning of the story, Marla really, she comes to Los Angeles with her mother. She's quite naive. She's very religious. And she kind of thinks she knows it all, which, by the way, I think anyone at that age coming to LA probably would have thought the same thing. But throughout the story, throughout the lessons that she learns and through her relationship with Frank and her interactions with Howard Hughes, she really becomes a strong and independent woman. And it's throughout those experiences that really define her character as strong, I think. Well, Marla originally comes to Los Angeles accompanied by her mother. Again, she's extremely naive, she's very religious, and in a way needy. She needs her mom there. And she's also a little bit of, I think, a know-it-all. She thinks she knows exactly how it's going to all play out, which I can't fault her for, because I feel like we probably all would think that way if we had a preconceived idea of what Hollywood was. But throughout the hardships that she endures during the film and the lessons that she learns, and also through her relationship with Frank, she really has to become a strong, independent woman. She's no longer there with her mom. She can't rely on her. And it's through those roadblocks that she's thrown that she has to realize it's a sink or swim situation, and she really develops an individuality from that. Alden is so lovely. He honestly is such a kind, lovely human being and so extremely talented. It's funny, we grew up both in Beverly Hills, and our moms knew each other, and we had a very similar group of friends, and yet we never met in all those years. And then finally it took Warren putting us together in a room for us to be like, oh my God, finally, I'm finally meeting you. It's nice to meet you. But he was just a joy to work with, and we really went through a lot together on this experience, and it was so lovely to have him as a sounding board and a real support system. What's so brilliant about the way that Warren created in this film tonally is that it's what one would consider a very dramatic story, but he has such a lightness to the tone. He adds a sense of humor when you're least expecting it, and part of what you're not expecting is this romantic relationship between Mr. Hughes and Marla that is part of what makes the film so comedic. Our scenes together, especially the drunk scene, is an epically long, I think it was 12 or 13 page scene that is just so funny. And I loved the idea that you could mix a drama with comedy in such a beautiful way and have it be something that everyone could enjoy and also be constantly surprised by. my character Marla sings a song to Frank and later to Howard Hughes. And again, I want to preface, it's kind of great. She's a songwriter, not a singer. So in those moments when we sung them live, all the nerves that I had as myself, as Lily singing, that's exactly how Marla would have felt. So if her voice cracked, it was fine because my voice cracked. So it was very genuine and to the moment. And what was so brilliant about doing it live is that I wasn't having to match or mimic a tape. I wasn't having to overthink anything. I could just live and breathe in the moment and use all my nerves, I think, for the betterment of the character. I would constantly get the note from Warren to let go more. And it's not something that I've never been told before, so I was very hyper aware of it when he said it. And I just didn't quite realize how useful and almost kind of magical things can get when you just let go. And especially when you're doing take after take after take, you start to have to just relinquish all self-control in a way and really stop thinking so much about what you had planned to do. Even as an actor, I know that it's all in those spontaneous moments, but you do kind of have a bit of a guideline of where you're going. But once you get to that, 5th, 6th, 7th take, you have to start playing around in ways that you weren't even expecting. And it's in those moments that sometimes the most brilliant moments that would never have happened had it just been on take one would happen. And so I think I'm always going to take that with me. I have played the trailer for my dad, and I sing in the trailer, so he has heard it. But again, I think I love the fact that I can say, as a character, Marla was a songwriter, not a singer. And so her passion and her love of music really comes from such an intimate place. And it's in those intimate moments that she shares them with Frank and Mr. Hughes that the purity, I think, of the song comes through. I think it's probably more of a self-imposed rule that growing up, I always felt that I almost had to keep it together all the time, to keep a composure all the time, to have all my ducks in a line all the time. And as an actor, again, like with the note that Warren had given me about letting go, you just sometimes are naturally not going to be in control all the time. And I think once I realized that that was a rule that I was putting on myself and that I could just discard, the world opens up. All of a sudden, these more spontaneous, magical moments can happen, whether that's in your daily life, whether that's at your job. I mean, even when in your relationship with yourself, it's something so important to know that it's okay not to have to be perfect all the time.
Hey, so did you like that video? Now, I've got an interesting fact for you. Did you know that The Dark Knight made more money in its first 6 days in the US than Batman Begins made in its entire domestic run? Now, for this and more movie facts, click on more videos or click on the playlist for more trailers.